Well, Iffy, thank you very much for taking time out to talk to us.
You're welcome.
Finally made it to Manchester.
I know. Love the weather.
Oh, gosh. To be fair, the weather hasn't been that bad for us in London anyway. Don't know about Manchester.
It rains a lot up here, trust me. And it's raining a lot today. So
Yeah.
we had a nice weather about a week or two ago, but this tends to be it, really.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
I think probably about 15 years now. No?
Makes us all feel old. Yeah, so last time you were a very young man.
Yes.
Now I was a little bit younger, but you were certainly a very young man. I think when I left Jules, I would have been 2002 to go to Sheffield United. And then I stayed 2 years, a year at Sheffield United. The other year was kind of on loan.
Yeah.
Finished at Huddersfield. That was me done. Body falling apart. Done for.
That was it.
2004 was me done.
Do you know what? I actually remember, because back in the days at Jill's, when we used to go to college.
Yeah.
So here's a boy from Brixton to Kent. I've never traveled outside Brixton. So Gillingham was the first time I actually left Brixton. And we had to dress smart, casual to go to college.
Okay.
So I turned up in my suit, stripy, black and grey suit. And I had this big chain, like Puff Daddy chain. And it was silver. And he actually said to me, "Nah, mate, you don't do that."
Did I say that to you?
Yeah, you did. And I mean,
bless you.
Yeah. And Hopey actually got me a tie the next day.
I hope he's the loveliest man in the world. Bless him.
Well, let's get a bit into what you're currently doing now. So, you're with the PFA.
Yes.
Coach Educator.
Yes.
Is the title. And before we get into it more, I'm sure you know, when you transitioned from football, you went into coaching.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Interesting. Because I think in football, you always feel, especially when you get established after the first early years, you become a kind of senior pro, people know you, that there's always another contract. There's always the next one until, like I say, body says it's had enough. Coaching is completely different. You do your qualifications, do your badges. That's only half the story. And I say this to guys now I work with. The next thing is getting yourself in front of people, if that's possible. Networking, massive part of your second career, much more so than anyone realises. We never did interviews when you're playing. No. The manager watched you, liked you, that was it, done, sang your deal. Here, you have to interview. So I say that to guys right from day one. Start thinking about your profile. We have people like Osher who can help with the CVs, and because things are that important, CVs, mock interviews. I've actually done mock interviews for coaches who were thinking of getting jobs and needed that bit of experience. So the difference, I guess, from playing to coaching is the realising you're now in the employment world properly. You always are with football, but really are. You know, this is when it gets competitive because there's so many coaches want to stay in the game.
We'll come back to the coaching aspect of it, but let's talk a bit about racism. So now, off the back, unfortunately, George Floyd lost his life, and as a result of that incident, the whole world started talking about racism. And here in the UK, we started to confront this big elephant in the room, so to speak. And I know that the PFA have really been pushing for equality within every sector in society as well. Within football, sometimes it's been swept under the carpet, as much work as the PFA have been trying to do. And I want to link that with your transition from football to coach or a manager, because we've seen the disproportionate of ethnic minorities within the managerial and coach positions. So how did that impact you?
I was looking that when I first finished my coaching and went from playing, I got a job offer straight away. And actually, all the jobs I've ever had in football, people have kind of contacted me. I did go for a couple of interviews and I didn't get them. For whatever reason. I'm not saying I should have done, but I didn't get them.
Okay, I want to know, what is the process like, especially being in the interview room? The type of questions you ask.
Yeah, the interview is like, again, this is what I was alluding to earlier. You never do these interviews normally. Even for me, you know, I've not done that kind of thing before. Where you're in front of people, you and I having to tell them I had an interview for an academy, assistant academy manager. And by the way, as a coach, you just want to stay in the game.
Yeah.
So whether you want to coach babies or older people, you want to stay in the game. And you like to think that your human skills are enough to coach men as it is to coach younger kids. You might have a preference, but you want to stay. So for me, I could do an interview if I haven't got that desire anymore, but if I still had that desire to work within a football club, I could happily do an interview to work with in the youth phase, which is 12 to 16, as I could do in the professional phase over 16 to 21 without a problem, and making myself credible as well.
Selling yourself.
Selling myself, being able to do it. I could say, well, I've worked at this, I did some things at Swindon when I was head of academy, I looked after this, looked after that. If it was younger guys, older ones, I could say, yeah, I worked at first team level, I managed the coach. So I like to think I could sell myself well enough, but that's still a tough thing, especially if there's 3 or 4 people. Sometimes they're around the table and they're from the club. It might be an academy manager, might be a director, and you don't know what they're looking for.
Right.
Are they looking for your contacts outside to get into bigger clubs? Because if you haven't got that on your CV and that's what they're looking for, that could be a big stumbling block already. And you're never told this, you're never quite sure. So actually, going back to what you're saying, part of the problem about recruitment in football is the lack of transparency. There's a lot of lack of transparency about what the job entails. Sometimes there'll be a job description, but sometimes there isn't, and you're kind of trying to guess what the job entails. There's not a single job, I find, and I include being a brain surgeon, where you can't, if you're bright enough, learn the job on the ropes.
Yeah.
My ex-wife was a nurse, and she used to tell me stories about junior doctors, 7 years out of medical student, went to bed with a textbook, knew everything about this and that and everything. First time they went on a ward, panicking, because it's real life.
Yeah, of course.
And they used to rely on the nurses, all the people who would hold their hand, guide them through it until they get to that level of competence. Yeah. So this happens in every walk of life. I've done a few jobs now. I'd say it takes you 6 months to a year. You think about how many managers lose the job within 6 months. You don't know everyone's name within 6 months. Yeah. How do you meant to leave the job within 6 months? So there's not many jobs where you can't know that job well after, as long as you're given some support and things are established in place, some structure around it within a year. Mm-hmm. So I think as a recruiter, and putting myself in their shoes, you're looking at the human qualities of people. Are they good enough to do the ones? Are they going to represent your club in a certain way? Do they have the best interests of the club at heart? Are they driven people? Are they ambitious people? So all those things you should be looking for in an interview. The last thing you want to look for is what colour the skin is. Yeah, it's what they're about. What do they stand for? Does that marry up what you stand for? And we know there's blockages in the system, and the stats tell us what they are. Yeah. But that lack of transparency around recruitment is always going to be a problem in football.